Hi, all of you wonderful scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine podcast, where I break down the latest scuba diving news and just things that have piqued my interest over the previous week. The podcast is sponsored by the scuba diving giant Scubapro, who manufacture a wide range of diving equipment for entry-level scuba divers experiencing the underwater world for the first time to advanced technical divers and professional scuba divers as well. I'll talk more about Scubapro later on in this podcast. Hi, all of you awesome scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diving Magazine podcast. This week in scuba diving news, several divers have gone missing, including a record-breaking freediver. So there's a few lessons to be learnt out there to look after yourselves. And there's quite a few new interesting pieces of dive equipment from some of the big brands from Scubapro, Oceanic and AquaLung. So the first news story is that Italian-Swiss record-breaking freediver Andrea Zuccari has gone missing while scuba diving off Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt and is presumed dead. According to reports, the 48-year-old freediving expert who ran the Freediving World Centre in the Egyptian resort was scuba diving using a backplate and wing and a scooter to conduct maintenance on connection cables on a dive platform somewhere between 45 to 50 meters, but never returned from the dive. A search operation was immediately launched, and the day after his disappearance, some of his diving equipment was found, but Zuccari's body is still missing at time of recording. The 48-year-old instructor set an Italian no-limits record in 2017 with a dive down to 185 meters, and in the past had set a number of Swiss national records as well as tandem no-limit world records. He had moved to Sharm in his late 20s to become a scuba diving instructor, later moved into technical diving before taking up free diving in 2006. He was competing from the following year and became an AIDA instructor in 2011. So this man knew a lot about scuba diving and free diving and diving at those kind of depths. So at the moment, we just don't know what happens, and unfortunately, we need to presume the worst. Zuccari set up the Freediving World Apnea Centre at a Sharm hotel in 2012 to provide deep training facilities for divers at all levels, and became well known as an expert in equalization techniques. He introduced the Dan Equal Easy program, and when not instructing in Sharm, he toured with his Equalization Academy workshops. So he really did help out the diving community, and it is a great loss if he has died. But as far as we can tell, he has been lost. Further south in the Egyptian Red Sea, a Russian female scuba diver is reported to have gone missing after diving caverns at the Gifton Islands near Hurghada. Kristina Osipova, who's 44 from St. Petersburg, had been on a 10-day cruise and was diving with her husband, Yuri, who was 41. The couple, who have 4 children, were described as experienced divers, but on the dive were reported to have ventured deeper than planned to a maximum of 40 meters. It's not known what gas mix they were using, but during the dive, the husband aborted his dive after reportedly beginning to lose consciousness and surfaced without his wife. According to a news agency report, the Russian consulate later referred to Osipov's dive computer, indicating that he had reached a maximum depth of 400 feet, which is over 120 meters. Quote, "This is the depth at which they were, and both lost consciousness," said a representative. Search operations using boats and divers were continuing. I read another report where the husband turned back because he wasn't feeling right, but his wife continued downwards. So lots of sketchy reports at the moment because the news is still kind of breaking as I'm recording the podcast. We don't have confirmed information, but if they did make it down to 120 meters, that's a huge depth, and the husband is lucky to be alive, especially as far as I can tell, they weren't diving any particularly technical dive equipment. It just seemed to be single cylinder diving that they were on. as far as I can tell from news reports, it sounds as if they were just diving on single cylinders. They were just doing a normal recreational dive, and for whatever reason, they both ended up going much far deeper than they were originally planning to, and luckily the husband made it back to the surface, the wife is missing. The search area has been expanded, but there's little hope of finding her alive, say rescuers. Her frantic husband has been taking part in the searches. Rescue Ship Commander Mustafa Nabil told REN TV her body may not be found if carried away by a strong undercurrent. They had been in a tourist group of 9 diving the caves to a depth of 120 feet. Off Gifton Islands, south of Resort Hurghada. The couple reportedly then dived, quote, deeper without any special equipment. Her husband said he began to lose consciousness when he what we call nitrogen narcosis, which makes divers feel intoxicated whilst diving, especially if you're diving below 40 meters. But the man managed to swim out and the woman remained in the water. We are still searching for the missing person. We have also informed all ships in the area that if anyone sees the body of a missing diver on the surface, to contact law enforcement. A record-breaking diver went down to the depth that they had been but saw no sign of her. At least 4 boats are involved in the search. The couple from St. Petersburg are reported to be experienced divers. The underwater caves formed by rocks overgrown with corals are popular on Gifton Island. Huge search party as usual, but at the moment, or at least at time of recording, no traces of her have been found. So the main lessons to be learned here is, when you're diving to those kind of non-recreational depths below 30 meters, is to take things really seriously, because even if you are a very experienced scuba diver like Andrea, you can still have issues, and from what I can tell, I could be wrong, but I believe he was diving by himself. So it's always best to dive with a buddy, even if you are qualified to dive solo. I'd always bring a buddy with me just in case, because it doesn't take much, and it is just nice to have an extra pair of hands. And diving to those depths, it's not worth it. Even on like air with single cylinders, it's just you don't have enough redundant backup. So just take your maximum depth limits really seriously. There's no point going beyond them. If you want to, get those qualifications, get all of that technical training and the equipment, and then you can explore those deeper depths. But for now, just stick to your recreational limits. You can still see plenty up there. It's still nice and warm. You still get a decent amount of sunlight. The only thing that happens when you go down deeper is your gas doesn't last quite as long. It gets darker, it gets colder. It's really not worth pushing those limits. So, as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, I'm going to talk briefly about Scubapro. Scubapro was founded in 1963 by Gustave Delaveil and Dick Bonin, and in 2023 they see their 60th anniversary, and Scubapro is stronger than ever. Today, Scubapro is a global brand, and you'll find them around any dive site or dive boat, because scuba divers around the world just trust Scubapro as a brand. I personally have never had a problem recommending any Scubapro dive equipment to anyone asking. I used it whilst I was scuba diving and teaching, and so did all of my students as well. They were using Scubapro equipment, and no matter where you are in the world, it won't be hard to find a service center because they're located all over the world. The divers are Scubapro's inspiration. Every product, every enhancement, every decision, everything that they do is designed to make your diving experience the best that it can be. Because without this blue planet of divers eager to explore, their innovations mean nothing. And Scubapro want to thank you for being part of their journey and for being their inspiration for the future. They are so excited to share their latest innovations with you. The best is yet to come. A few big things this year have been the Helix range of wetsuits that use a plant-based rubber-based foam instead of neoprene, which is better for the planet, and the S-Tech fins, which are a more technical-focused fin, a bit of a hybrid between the Sea-Wing Nova and the Jet fin. One really cool feature is that you can actually adjust their buoyancy by adding or removing little metal plates in the fin before the dive. But for more information, head over to scubapro.com. On to some lighter news. There's quite a few new pieces of dive equipment that have been announced or at least published this week. The first one coming from Scubapro, who's today's sponsor. They've released the Galileo 3 that they've given the nickname the G3. So this is a watch-sized color screen dive computer. Think like think Scubapro's version of the Shearwater Terek. It has one pretty cool feature that I haven't seen on a digital watch-sized dive computer before, as far as I can tell. It has a rotating bezel. I've never seen that on a digital, and I love a rotating bezel. As far as dive equipment, this kind of little feature I really love, and I usually wear a standard like analog watch, and one of those rotating bezels is really useful. I mainly use it for like cooking times, because you just rotate the bezel to the minute hand and it lets you know how long something's been in the oven, so that's really useful. It's also useful while scuba diving at times. But yeah, that's obviously not the most exciting feature, but in my mind it kind of is. How do they describe it? With a vibrant color display for easy readability, the Scubapro Galileo 3, in brackets the G3, offers a modern watch-style dive computer in a classic timepiece look. It does give off slight like Rolex vibes, ever so slight. It's obviously branded Scubapro. Utilizing Galileo's trusted menu design and 4-button control, it's extremely intuitive to navigate through dive modes, 2 algorithm choices, screen styles, and other personalized dive management options. Powered by a rechargeable lithium battery and built to last with a stainless steel housing, the G3 delivers everything you need in a dive computer with the comfort and style of an everyday wristwatch. So let's have a look at the features. High contrast full color display with backlight made for easy readability in all conditions. So full color screen, the watch screen, it has an analog face to it, but by the sounds of it, you can change that. That seems to be quite common on computers nowadays, especially watch-sized dive computers. On the dive screen, it looks quite similar to the rest of the sort of the Galileo or like the modern Aladdin dive screens. The watch looks like a standard elastomer strap. Robust stainless steel housing for diving up to 300 meters. Struth, that's a lot deeper than I can go. Ergonomic design features rounded case back and edges, making it comfortable to wear. That's nice on a wristwatch. Rechargeable lithium battery provides up to 30 hours per charge, depending on dive and watch settings being utilized. 30 hours. I mean, I presume that's 30 hours dive time. If it's just on the surface and it's not recording and analyzing and whatnot, it probably extends. But yeah, you get a lot of these rechargeable computers nowadays. Stainless steel rotating timing bezel, yeah, with self-luminescent digits and markers that can be used to set track of your dive time in gauge mode. Intuitive Galileo full text menu, 4-button controls make it easy to navigate. Screen display configurations let you customize your data presentation with light or classic screen options to suit your individual diving style. Oh, here we go. Choice of 2 selectable algorithms: predictive multigas Buhlmann, ZHL16, ADT MBPMG, predictive multigas, or the ZHL16 gradient factor. So yeah, you can pick and choose your algorithms from that. The PMG, the predictive multigas, is I think I've only ever seen that on Scubapro computers. I think that's unique to them, but it's still based on that Buellman algorithm. Or you can just switch it to gradient factors, which is comparable to a lot of dive computers nowadays, as long as it's not on like an RGBM. 3 dive modes: scuba, gauge, and apnea. Awesome. Because some, I mean, like the Shearwater Teric, that's the main downside of it, is that it doesn't have a free diving, or I haven't updated mine in a while. I don't think it has an apnea mode. In scuba mode, 4 settings available: trimix, closed circuit rebreather, side mount, and predictive multi-gas. That's pretty cool. Wireless air integration, outstanding. A lot of people like wireless AI nowadays. Provides true remaining bottom time, so it's calculating based on the gas that's in your cylinder, combined with your breathing rate and your current depth. It works out in minutes how long, how much gas you have left in minutes, basically. Pair up to 8 nitrox or trimix cylinders, plus a diluent tank in CCR and a pony bottle to handle any recreational or technical diving scenario. That's quite cool, because I mean, here in the UK, a lot of divers still dive pony cylinders. So yeah, you can just set up, oh, okay, here's my main gas, and I'm also diving a pony. So yeah, you can switch that should you need to in the water. Personalized dive management functions, including PDIS, profile-dependent intermediate stops, and micro-bubble levels of conservatism to match your experience, age, and physical conditioning. 3D tilt compass. Compasses are always quite used. Features a top view full compass rose display. Sport mode offers a swim stroke counter. So that's pretty cool, because that's the main complaint with a lot of the new dive computers that are coming out from like Garmin and Apple, is that the Garmin especially is very much a multi-sport computer that also does scuba diving. Whereas if you compare it to a lot of modern scuba diving computers, that's what they do. They're scuba diving computers, and that's kind of it. Sunto have kind of tinkered with pairing it to your phone. I know the D5 can like sort of have text messages on your show it on the screen, but it's not really the same. So having a swim stroke counter, activity counter, in brackets pedometer, and stopwatch for topside sports, at least it's bringing that Scubapro G3 into a more just something, a more practical, sporty watch that you can wear day to day, if that makes sense. Smart notifications such as emails, texts, media player controls, and alerts when paired with a compatible iPhone. So yeah, a lot of dive computers and things nowadays, and another one that I'll mention later on today, that they pair with an iPhone, but not so much Android yet. They still prefer Apple over Android. Bluetooth Low Energy interface lets you download dives to any iOS or Android device, or your PC or Mac. So it will talk to Android devices, it's just you won't be able to send emails, text messages, and media players and whatnot. It's only if you have an iPhone. Firmware can be user updated with LogTrack 2.0 iOS or Android app. So bug fixes and all that kind of stuff. New features: comfortable 22mm black silicone strap included. Interchangeable accessory bands are available to match your style. Ooh, optional heart rate monitor sold separately lets you track your heart rate whilst diving or when engaged in topside sports. So it has human factor diving, which is always outstanding. So this is exclusive, or mostly exclusive, to Scubapro dive computers, in that you can wear a separate heart rate monitor. It's waterproof, so you don't have to worry about it, but it sends your skin temperature and your heart rate to your dive computer, and then it can tailor your dive profile. So if it can tell that you're really cold, or you're working really hard, you're swimming against current, then the dive computer can adjust your algorithm and suggest that, you know what, maybe you should shallow up a little bit sooner, or if you're nice and warm and it's pretty chilled out dive, then it can be a bit more lax and say, you know what, yeah, you can stay down a little bit deeper. So that's always nice to see. Packaged inside a soft black case with a silicone arm strap extension, USB cable, charging dongle and holder, lanyard with clip, quick card and read first manual. So it doesn't look like it's wireless charging, which isn't a deal breaker for me, but it's worth noting. Specs, anything interesting? Freediving, CCR, color, rechargeable. Yeah, it looks like a smart piece of kit. Price $1,300. So yeah, I think that's quite a fair price. I mean, it's Scubapro, so it's usually quite a premium. However, it's a lot of dive computer, and you've got a little bit of everything. You've got a technical dive computer, you've got free diving, you've got wireless air transmitter, you've got the heart rate monitor, you've got quite a few like nice features, and that rotating bezel. So yeah, I'll be very interested to get my hands on one and see what it's like. Some Scubapro computers I haven't got on with, or you get on with them, but they can be a little bit fiddly. But we're a few generations away from those ones now, so this one looks quite smart. It looks kind of chunky, which is quite cool. I do like a chunky dive computer. I know a lot of people complain about these really big, bulky dive computers, but if you're used to like a Petrol or a Perdix or something, then this doesn't feel quite so large. But yeah, stay tuned. I'll have a word with Scubapro, see if I can get my grubby little mitts on one and test it out. Something else that was announced this week is the Oceanic Plus dive housing. It's kind of been, I mean, it's been on their website for a while now, but it's kind of been a bit quiet. When they released their pairing with the Apple Watch Ultra, it was there at the bottom. If you kept scrolling below all of the Apple Watch features, there was also this dive housing down at the bottom. But they've like perfected it, and the embargo has lifted. So now you can use your iPhone as both an underwater camera and a dive computer. So the Oceanic dive housing allows you to take great photos with automatic color correction on your phone when diving or during any underwater adventure. With the Oceanic Plus app and the dive housing, your iPhone also becomes a fully functional dive computer. So unlike just an underwater phone housing where you put your phone in a case, you lock it up, and you take your phone underwater, this one actually plugs into your phone, and there's a small section off to one side that has like sensors in the case, so that you can use your iPhone as a dive computer, and whilst you're actually underwater, you can take photos and videos and whatnot, which is pretty cool. And with the Oceanic Plus app, you can use the same subscription for both the Apple Watch Ultra and your iPhone. This allows you to have 2 units sharing the same subscription to save you money. This was what a lot of people were complaining about with the Apple Watch Ultra, is that you have this Oceanic Dive Plus or Oceanic Plus Dive app that would unlock certain features, and it was kind of unclear as to what you could actually use without this subscription. But now it's even more worth it to have this extra subscription. It also provides greater redundancy for diving when both the Apple Watch Ultra and the iPhone with Oceanic Plus Dive housing. So if you have an Apple Watch Ultra and you use that as your dive computer, it can talk to your phone, and should anything happen, then yeah, you have your phone that's acting as a dive computer, and you have your watch acting as a dive computer. At the end of each dive, the primary computer will be selected for your dive data, and then you can you've downloaded or you've taken all of these photos and these videos on your iPhone, and then you can edit them and just upload them straight from there. So it's pretty cool. It's a decent size. It does add a certain amount of like extra housing to your phone, obviously, to be able to take it scuba diving, but it has got a decent grip on it. I did watch a presentation of people using it a little while ago, and yeah, it's a good looking, smart, well built piece of kit. We were asking them questions, and they were coming up with answers to all of them. So yeah, they really do know what they're talking about. Maximum operating depth of 60 meters, so it's waterproof down to 60 meters. But I think the algorithm won't take you down. I think it's just 40 meters. I could be wrong. I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, because it is is that separate bit of technology connected to your phone. It does have a built-in battery, so it's got a rechargeable battery inside of the phone case, and then you plug your phone into that, if that makes sense. Has an automatic vacuum pump with a seal check. So obviously you're putting your expensive phone into this phone case. You want to make sure that that it's not going to flood. So yeah, they've really gone all out on the on this seal pump, and it is automatic. It warns you if there's a potential leak. It's compatible with quite a range of iPhones, compatible with the iPhone SE 2nd generation and up. So iPhone 14 Pro Max, the Pro, the Plus, the 14, the 13, all the way down to the 11, the X, and yeah, the SE 2nd generation. So it's got a decent amount of like backwards compatibility, and we're seeing more and more of these kind of phone cases, and it kind of makes sense. The more you think about it, you're walking around with these really powerful computers built into your phone, and they have outstanding cameras built into them as well. So why wouldn't you like combine it? And yeah, it's the modern world. It's a little bit of change, but actually when you really do deep down think about it, it does make sense. And Oceanic, always trustworthy. And now that they're partnering up with Apple, it just goes to prove sort of how big they are. So yeah, something else I'll be interested to get my hands on. I will need to invest in an iPhone to test it out. But yeah, the case itself is well constructed. Oceanic equipment, they have some nice styling nowadays. It's that kind of modern, smooth, reliable kind of feel to it. But yeah, stay tuned, and I'll see if I can release a video on it in the near future. And another one that I kind of stumbled upon without noticing is the AquaLung Helix Compact and the Compact Pro regulators. So they look very similar from the front cover to the AquaLung Helix and the Helix Pro, but now we get the Helix Compact. So they have a smaller second stage. The first stage looks much the same, other than compact embossed on it, and yeah, it's just a smaller second stage. Reminds me of like the Micron or the Micron, whatever you call it, and kind of Apex XL4 vibes to it. It's got this funny little like bridge at the very top of the body of the second stage that looks a bit like an attachment point, but I probably wouldn't put a bolt snap on there. That would be kind of annoying. It might just be styling or just function, but it seems to be aimed more at the traveling diver, which a lot of us are. The Pro version, other than a slight color difference, it's more just cold water functions. Basically, it's got a more comprehensive heat sink coming into the second stage compared to the just standard Helix Compact, and it also has a lip shield, which I often dive with. It's just a silicone, don't know how you describe it. It's just a section of silicone that goes over the mouthpiece, and it just sits in front of your lips, and a little bit like a wetsuit, it just adds this layer of silicone over your lips. The water can still get to your lips, but because it's not flushing over them quite so frequently, it kind of keeps your lips a little bit warmer on colder dives. It seems silly, but it does work. The first time I saw it, I had no idea what it was, but then when I tried one, you're like, huh, this works. So I invested in a few to put on my different regulators, and they sometimes work with different second stages, but even if it doesn't fit perfectly, it's still quite nice. That's just something that I think I was looking through their range of regulators. I needed some information, and I saw the Helix Compact, and I was like, "Ooh, I've never seen that before. That looks new." But they're not really doing a whole song and dance about it. They just like release it on their website and hope people will find it. I don't think I've seen it on any of their social media. So hey, I'm spreading it to the masses. Otherwise, that's about it. This week, I think I was just doing some finishing touches to the Seal SL01 dry suit video that went live on Wednesday. Some people were asking about why there wasn't a lot of footage of me wearing it, and that's because it was huge. That was the best that I can do on short notice, because all of them are effectively made to measure. They would have had to have made me a suit, but did manage to get my hands on a new one, but of course it wasn't my size. So I'm trying to show off how flexible and tailored the suit is, like around the arms. But when it's like 4 sizes too big for me, you're like, oh, I can't really show that shot because it doesn't really sell the suit very well. But very smart piece of kit. I also have another iPhone underwater case from ProShot. That's a smart piece of kit. Again, it's so that you can take your iPhone underwater, but it's only for like underwater photos and video. That will probably go live in a couple of weeks, to be honest. My schedule is pretty full already. But yeah, I've been working on that, and just catching up with Ask Mark questions. Someone was asking a question about the AquaLung Helix regulator, whether that was a decent regulator for diving in Egypt. Which I'd love the Helix regulator. They also were asking about whether it was worth removing their transmitter, like during storage. And it's kind of there's no real benefit to removing it unless there's some force acting on the transmitter. If you have your transmitter fitted to a short high pressure hose, then no, there's no real benefit to removing your transmitter. As soon as they get depressurized, I think they stay on for a minute or two, just in case there was an interruption. But after that minute or two, they usually just go into like hibernation, battery saver mode. So you're not benefiting anywhere there. The only thing that would happen is that you're exposing the O-rings to ozone, which can deteriorate them. Contaminants can get in, little bits of dust, and you do run a slight risk of cross-threading it when you go to put it back in the next time. So there's no real benefit unless it's a particularly tight regulator bag and you're worried about it like bending or breaking. And they also had a third question, which was about compasses, whether you got north and southern hemisphere dive compasses, which yes, you do. It's not often advertised that like broadly, especially online. It's mainly because a lot of dive compasses, it's not as if they stop working as soon as you go north or south of the equator. They're not that precise. I mean, hopefully that sentence makes sense. It's basically A northern hemisphere compass will work a lot in the southern hemisphere as well, and vice versa. It's only when you get to like real extreme latitudes where if you're diving a northern or a southern hemisphere compass, they'll start to get a little bit squiffy. But yes, you do get northern and some southern hemisphere compasses. So it's usually if you're shopping in the northern hemisphere for a dive compass, it'll be a northern hemisphere and vice versa. But some, depending on the size of the dive sensor, may advertise, oh yeah, here's the northern hemisphere, here's the southern one. It's usually NH or SH, and you actually, wherever you are, depending on the supplier, you can usually get hold of the alternative. It's just when we get an account with a supplier, you get a full list of all of the parts and products that you can get in, along with the trade price and the recommended retail price. And yeah, you basically get a buyer who goes through the list and goes, that'll sell, that probably won't sell, and they just pick and choose what they want to stock. And something like a southern hemisphere compass probably isn't going to sell that well in the northern hemisphere, unless you're in an area where there's a lot of travelers who travel south of the equator. So yeah, it's kind of like metric and imperial gauges. You can get PSI gauges here in the UK, but they're quite rare, and it's usually a special order. Normally, if you're buying a pressure gauge over here, it's in bar, whereas in like the States and a lot of other countries who still run like PSI, it's the alternative. If you buy a set of gauges, chances are they're going to come in PSI. But if you ask the manufacturer nicely, you can probably get hold of the alternative. But yeah, that is quite an interesting question, and not one that gets asked very frequently. But yes, underwater compasses do come in northern and southern hemispheres. But don't worry too much if you're not going too far beyond the equator, because they tend to be quite accurate for most of the globe. Sunto had a pretty cool map on one of their manuals. I think it's for their SK7 compass, and it actually showed, yeah, the entire world, map of the world. And they're like, right, the northern hemisphere compass will work from here down to about here, and the southern hemisphere will work from down here all the way up to about here. So you got this actual map of roughly where the compass will stay accurate to. And if you have a digital compass, then you can just set the the declination, and you can recalibrate it. So yeah, you're pretty much covered with digital compasses. But yeah, otherwise that's it. Busy week as always. And yeah, lots of missing divers. As I was going through the news, I was like, oh, Struth, every single story is on like missing divers. Yeah, look after yourselves, everyone. Make sure you're diving with a buddy and you're diving to safe depths that you're qualified to. Remember to check out today's sponsor, Scubapro. Head over to their website. They do have a lot of exciting stuff. They're one of those trusty, reliable brands. And head over to our website, scubadivermag.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do all that good social media stuff. Thank you for listening, everybody. And of course, safe diving.